So the first step in spiritual cultivation, spiritual practice is especially a meditation, is to establish oneself on Sīla. Okay? So Noble Eightfold Path of practice begin with Sīla. Sīla, then Samādhi, then Panya. Okay? So Sīla is the foundation for the development of the Noble Eightfold Path, development of the Satipatthāna. Okay? For example, in the Satipatthāna Samyutta, so Buddha says, Silam Nisaya Sile Patitaya Chattaro Satipatthāne Bhaveyasi. Okay? So that means depending on Sīla, established upon Sīla, and one should develop the 4 Satipatthānas. Okay? So you should develop the 4 Satipatthāna only after you have established on Sīla. Okay? So by observing Sīla, so Sīla means conduct, good conduct, virtuous conduct. So so by observing Sīla, you get all your external physical and verbal action, you get it in order. Okay, so you bring order to your external physical and verbal actions. Okay, so because if your external physical and verbal actions are not in order, it means you kill, you hurt, you cheat, you lie, and so on. Okay, so you perform actions and speech that are motivated by the kilesa, with the mental defilements, lobha, dosa, moha, and so on. Okay, so these defilements are stirred up in the mind. They have a free reign in our mind. So therefore, internally, the mind will be chaotic. Okay, so the defilements will run wild in the mind. Okay, so when you observe Sīla, so Sīla helps to restrain the grossest form of transgressive defilements. Okay? So usually, when you break the precepts, it's due to very strong defilements. Okay? Due to very strong anger, you kill, you hurt. So due to strong greed, you steal or commit sexual misconduct. Okay? So due to fear, very strong fear, you tell lies. Right? So when you observe Sīla, what you are essentially doing is you are determining not to act on these defilements, to restrain them each time they arise. When the strong defilements arise, urging you to perform unwholesome physical, verbal action, killing, stealing, and so on. So you are determining, I will restrain myself. I will not act on these defilements. So by observing Sīla, it helps you to restrain this grossest form of transgressive defilements. Okay? So by restraining these defilements, it brings restraint and order to your external physical and verbal action. Okay? So therefore internally, the mind is not so chaotic. You are restraining the defilements. Okay? So but Sīla only deals with the grossest form of defilements. It restrain this very strong defilements can cause you to perform external unwholesome physical and verbal action. Okay. So however, the mind is not completely settled down yet. Okay. Because there are still defilements remaining in the mind. Okay. For example, you observe Sīla or Panatipata Veramani. I abstain from killing. You're meditating, mosquito come. You don't, slap. So you don't kill, but still your mind is irritated. It's still defilements disturbing the mind. Mosquito not even touch you yet. Just from far away you hear, your mind shaking already. So also when you observe 8 precepts, you don't sing, you don't dance, you don't watch any entertainment, but all this music, dancing, movies still play in your mind. So the mind is still unsettled. Okay? So some defilements still remaining in the mind. Okay? So in order to purify the mind further, because in order to develop vipassana, you need to purify the mind, completely, at least temporarily. You must bring the mind to a state of purity. Okay, so to purify the mind further from this remaining defilements, you need to meditate. Okay, in order to develop samadhi. Okay, so Sīla cannot deal with these internal defilements. Okay, only samadhi can deal with it. Okay. So you need to meditate, you need to develop samadhi to purify the mind from all these defilements. Okay? But some may ask, I thought vipassana yogis, we just proceed straight to develop vipassana without having to develop samadhi. So this is a wrong idea. You have misunderstood. So vipassana yogi do not need to develop samatha jhanas. Okay? So, but because those samatha jhana pertains to the development of samatha. Okay? So because we do not develop samatha, so we do not develop these jhanas. Okay? But we do develop what we call vipassana jhana, or vipassana samadhi, okay? Or to be more accurate, kanika samadhi, okay? Momentary concentration, or moment to moment concentration. Okay? That we need to develop. Okay? Because without kanika samadhi, you cannot develop vipassana. Okay? So in the Visuddhimagga Mahatika, the sub-commentary to the Visuddhimagga, it says, Nahi kanika samadhi vina vipassana sambhavati. Okay? So this means that vipassana cannot be produced. You cannot produce vipassana. Insight cannot arise. Vipassana, insight cannot arise without or in the absence of kanika samadhi. Okay? So as vipassana yogi, we do need to develop this kanika samadhi. But it is important to have a clear understanding of what is samadhi. Okay? So often when you hear samadhi, the first thing that comes to mind is concentration. In fact, this is usually how Samadhi is translated as concentration. Okay, but you see, when we hear the word concentration, we think about how we usually concentrate in our everyday life. So, for example, let's say you're reading a very difficult book. What is a difficult book? A book on philosophy, especially Western philosophy. So, very, very difficult to understand. I remember last time I read one of this book. I think I read 3 pages and I gave up. It's so complex the way they argue their points. So Buddhist philosophy easier, simple, straight to the point. So so when you read such a difficult book, you have to concentrate, focus until you get headache. So this is usually how we think about concentration. Okay, and then when it comes to meditation, you think, when you hear the word, the teacher say, develop concentration, then you think, this is the way to concentrate in meditation. So when you asked to note the object, so you try very hard, obsessively concentrate, focus on the object, as if you are choking the object. So you end up forcing the mind onto the object. And this leads to stress and tension. Okay? So, which is not helpful for the development of vipassana. In fact, it is counterproductive. Because when the mind is so full of tension and stress, it's disturbed. The mind is disturbed. Okay? So when the mind is disturbed, it cannot discern clearly. Okay? Vipassana is supposed to be the clarity of mind that discern nature, impermanent, suffering, non-self. But when the mind is so disturbed, it cannot discern clearly. Okay? So you cannot develop vipassana. Okay? So such tense focus of the mind, that's not samadhi. Okay? That only brings about stress, tension. Okay? When you meditate, you're supposed to be more and more calm, peaceful, not more and more stressed out. Okay? And that's the reason why most people come for meditation, because there are a lot of stress outside. So they come and meditate hoping to get some peace. But you focus like this, instead of peace, you become more stressed out. Right? Okay. So samadhi. What is samadhi? Okay. So you can describe samadhi as a state of mental stability. The mind is stable in the state of samadhi. State of mental stability, mental settledness. The mind is settled down. Mental calmness, composure. So the mind is calm, is composed, is peaceful. So in this state, because the mind is calm, is composed, is settled, peaceful, so it's able to settle down. The mind settle down and remain on the object. There's nothing to disturb it. Settle down. Remain on the object. Is at ease with the object. Is comfortable with the object. So in the state of samadhi, the mind is comfortable, at ease with the object. Vipassana samadhi, even the object is very difficult unpleasant object, still the mind is steady, it's calm, it's peaceful, it's relaxed. It's able to remain there. Okay? So samadhi, it's a state of mental calmness, peacefulness. It's a tranquility. So it's also a state of mind where the mind is purified, pure, freed from any mental defilements that destabilizes the mind, that causes disturbances, turbulence in the mind. Okay, so when defilements are present, greed, hatred, delusion, it disturbs the mind. The mind is chaotic, turbulent, disturbed. So in the state of samadhi, the mind is purified from these defilements, at least temporarily. So because the mind is freed from these defilements, nothing to disturb it. So the mind is calm, peaceful, relaxed, composed. So it's able to settle onto the object, able to remain undistracted on the object, remain focused on the object. So the focus of samadhi, that concentration of samadhi, it comes about through purification of mind from the defilements. So it does not come from obsessively forcing the mind to focus, because you cannot force the mind into samadhi. The more you force, the further away from samadhi the mind goes. Because we force, you get tension, you get stress, and that's not samadhi. That's the opposite of samadhi. So you want to develop samadhi, you have to work to purify the mind from the defilements. Then in the state of samadhi, the mental focus arises automatically. Even if you don't want to focus on the object, the mind will fix on the object. So so samadhi comes about when the kilesa, the mental defilements, are overcome, put aside from the mind. So now in particular, the defilements that needs to be overcome, removed, purified from the mind in order for samadhi to arise are these 5 hindrances, the pancha nivarana. These are 5 hindrances that obstruct the clarity of mind. The Buddha called them panyaya dubbalikarana. That means they weaken wisdom. Wisdom is the clarity of mind. So, but when these hindrances are present in the mind, disturb the mind cannot see clearly. So wisdom, the clarity of mind is weakened. So they weaken wisdom. So these 5 hindrances we went through the other day. First one is kama chanda, sense desire. Desire to see, hear, smell, taste, touch, think. So you meditate, you think about your family at home, you think about your husband or wife or your children, you think about going on a holiday, think about your favorite food, you queue up for food, I like this, kama chanda. Any form of desire, attachment. Even you think about nice, wonderful idea. Some people delight in philosophy. They think, this wonderful idea. Even thinking about Dhamma idea, you enjoy So it's a kind of sense desire. Okay, you think with attachment. Okay, but if you think about Dhamma and then your mind become detached, there's no sense desire. Okay, there are some yogis, in the middle of the retreat when the mind get bored, because they are very knowledgeable in the Dhamma, they start delighting in all those thoughts about Dhamma. Okay, so it becomes a hindrance. Okay, so so kama chanda, the first one. Second is vyapada, ill view. Simply means dosa. Okay, it means not just anger, aversion, hatred, which are very strong. That are dosa. Even just mild irritation, it's also dosa. When it's hot, you don't feel comfortable. Inside your mind, disturbed. That is dosa. Okay. So even fear, anxiety, these are all rooted in dosa. Okay. Fear, anxiety means you are not okay with something. But it manifests as fear or as anxiety. Okay, that's dosa. Okay, then tinamida, sloth and torpor. So as we said the other day, it's not just sleepiness. Okay, sloth and torpor is any state of mind where the mind is resistant to making effort, resistant to working. Okay, you don't want to work. Laziness, lack of drive, lack of motivation. Tomorrow. After I eat, I will meditate. After you eat, too full, I cannot meditate. Morning when it's cold, too cold, I cannot meditate. Then once the sun come up, too hot, cannot meditate. The mind keeps giving excuses. Okay? These are all tinamida. Okay? The mind don't want to work. Okay? Even boredom. So when you're bored, the mind don't want to note. Same one, always same one. No need to note so much. So that's tinamida. Okay? But boredom also sometimes can be due to kama chanda, sense desire. Your desire variety. This object always up, down, rising, falling, boring. You want something more exciting. So that's kama chanda. Okay. Then uddhacca, kukucca. Okay. Uddhacca means the restlessness. That means the mind shaking, shaking above the object. That's the meaning of uddhacca. Okay, so it unsettled. Okay, so it's a state of mental turbulence, mental chaos. Okay, mind becoming wild, uncontrollable, jumping here and there. I said the monkey mind. Okay, that's restlessness. Okay. Then kukucca is remorse or regret. Okay, so something, a duty that you have failed to perform. You fail to perform your duty to your parents or your children or your students or your teachers. All those duties mentioned in Sigalawada Sutta. So you fail to do your duties, maybe later you get regret. Okay, or maybe somebody asks you for help. You could help, but you don't want to help. Later you regret. So also, if you don't observe the Sīla, you kill, you steal, you cheat, you lie, you do all kinds of unwholesome action. When you meditate, it comes out, disturb the mind. Okay? So that is kukucca, remorse. Okay? Last one is vicikicca. Vicikicca means wavering doubt. The mind is wavering It cannot decide. It's like a dilemma. Is the Buddha really enlightened? Maybe he's not so enlightened. So you have doubt. So is this practice correct or wrong? People say Buddha did not teach vipassana. So maybe I should try something else. So you cannot decide. Wavering. You have doubt. So vicikicca must be when the mind becomes unstable. Because you cannot decide. After a while, you become confused. You don't know what to do. So it's like mental paralysis. Like when you're in dilemma, you cannot decide. Okay, so mental paralysis. Cannot go forward, cannot go backward, cannot go left, right. You mentioned the other day, it's like being lost in a desert. Right? You're lost in the desert. All around is just sand dunes. Front sand dune, back sand dune, left, right, all sand dune. Which is north, which is south, which is east and west. You lost your direction. So how to proceed? Go forward also, maybe not right. Go back also not right. Left also not right. Right also not right. So you cannot decide. After a while, you just stay there. And then you die there. So that's vicikicca. Okay, it should be differentiated from the healthy doubt. So sometimes you read the Buddha's teaching, he says something which you are not clear, then you have some doubt. But this one you are not confused. You still have this clarity. Oh, I don't understand this. I must go and discuss with the teacher. So you still have clarity. That is not vicikicca. Okay, vicikicca is when your mind is paralyzed, cannot decide, don't know how to proceed, and you don't even think of going and clarify with the teacher, to discuss with the teacher, right? So so these 5 hindrances, when they arise in the mind, in one way or another, it causes disturbances in the mind. So the mind, because the mind is disturbed, is unable to settle into the state of samadhi. So therefore, we need to put away these 5 hindrances before the mind can enter into the state of samadhi. So you think about the hindrances as like a wind as blowing into a room. So let's say there is a room with 6 windows. So it's a dark room. So in the room there are a lot of objects. In the center of the room there is a candle burning. So the light from the candle spreading throughout the room. But if all the windows are open, what happens? The wind blow into the room. So when the wind blow into the room, what happens? The candle flame starts to become unsteady. So when it's unsteady, its light starts to flicker. So when lights flicker, you cannot see things clearly. All the objects in the room cannot be seen clearly. It's like bright and dark, very, very fast. So cannot see clearly. So here the wind is like the hindrances. So the candle flame is like our mind. Okay, so the light from the flame is like wisdom. Okay, and the objects in the room is like the all the mental physical nature that you are noting. Okay, so the windows are like your sense doors, 6 sense doors. So when the window is open, that means it's like the mind, the door, sense door that is unguarded, unprotected by mindfulness. Okay, so when your sense door is not protected by mindfulness, it's just like the window open. So when the window open, the wind of the hindrances can blow into the mind. Okay, so it disturb the mind, just like the wind disturb the candle flame. Okay, so the candle flame is like your mind. So your mind is disturbed. So when the mind is disturbed, the clarity, the flame, the light from the flame is disturbed. So there's no clarity. Okay, so then you cannot discern nature of the object clearly. Okay, so in order for the candle flame to be steady, so that the lights cannot flicker. So when the light does not flicker, then the light is continuous. Okay, then it burns steady and bright, so you can see the object in the room clearly. So in order for the flame to remain steady, what must you do? You must close all the window. Make sure they are shut tight, so that the wind cannot blow in. Okay, so so once the wind does not blow, the candle will remain steady. Okay, and its light will be continuous. It will be bright. Objects will be clear. Okay, so so in a case of mind, for the mind to be steady, so that wisdom, clarity can arise clearly, to illuminate the object, the nature of the object you are noting. So what must you do? You must close all the doors of your senses. Okay, how do you close? Wear blindfold. Earplugs. How do you block the nose? Nose plug. And you cannot breathe. So obviously this is not the way. Even you can block all these senses. What about a body? How to block? It's all over. Even you can block the body. What about the mind? So you close the door to the senses, not physically, but through mindfulness. Okay, by exercising mindfulness, by restraining the sense experiences with mindfulness. Okay, so every time you see, hear, smell, taste, touch, think, make sure you experience the 6 sense experience with mindfulness present. Okay, so mindfulness is like the guard, the sentinel, and the jaga, stand guard at the door. Okay, defilements come and stop. Cannot come. So only allow wholesome state to enter. Okay. So with mindfulness present, it prevents hindrances from intruding into the mind. Okay, so effectively, close the door to the senses. Okay? So how do you close the door with mindfulness. You follow the basic instruction regarding noting of sense experience. Okay? So when seeing, you note seeing. Really note, not just say seeing, but just see. Oh, very nice. Really see, mindful. Okay, I say in what is seen, there's only what is seen. Dite dita matam bhavisati. Okay, so you stop at the bare seeing. Okay, you go and explore the object further, then the defilements arise. Oh, this is so nice, this is so beautiful, this is so ugly, and anger arise. Okay, you just seeing, bare seeing, stop there. Then the mind remains pure. Okay, when hearing also, hearing, stop at the bare hearing, bare awareness of hearing. Okay, otherwise you understand what is being said. Oh, this person scolding me, anger. See, so when you hearing, he scold you also. Your mind steady, calm, peaceful. You don't even know what he's talking about. So so restrain the senses by noting, not seeing, hearing, smelling, and so on. Okay, you go in lunch queue, you see, just seeing, not favorite food, or today, I don't like this. Just seeing. When you cannot seeing, it's just food. Okay, food for the sustenance of the body. That's why you see, before you eat, you do the reflection on the purpose of food. Why do you eat? You eat in order, you eat not to enjoy, not to make the body beautiful, not to fatten the body, not to be the strongest person in the world. You eat in order to have enough energy to practice the Dhamma, to sustain the body, keep it in good health, so that you can continue practice the Dhamma. You have to reflect the purpose of eating. Eat in order, so they say, so that old feeling will disappear, and new feeling does not arise. So what does this mean? Old feeling means hunger. Old feeling when you eat, then it disappear. Okay, so that new feeling does not arise. New feeling of overeating. You eat too much, heavy, you go feel bloated, then you cannot meditate. Right? So moderation in eating. Bojana matanyuta. Know the limit in food. Okay? So you have to reflect. Okay? So, but also mindful and seeing, just seeing. Okay? So so be mindful with each sense experience that arises. Note with mindfulness. It means note with this clear, careful awareness, this pure awareness that observe each sense experience without getting involved with the object. Okay, so whenever mindfulness is present in an experience, okay, due to the nature of mindfulness, okay, its nature of protecting the mind. Okay, so when mindfulness is present, it's able to restrain the mind from getting involved with the object. Okay, so mindfulness is present, it restrains the mind, it prevents the mind from being attracted to the object with desire, or being repelled by the object due to aversion. So the mind does not get involved with the object, either with attraction, desire, or with repulsion, aversion, dislike. Okay, so the mind remains detached on the object, just remains steady, detached from the object. Okay, so it's able to observe the object without grasping at the object due to desire, or pushing it away, running away from it due to aversion. Okay? So the mind remains still, steady, firm in a mere observation of the object, untouched, unaffected by the object. Okay? So in this way the mind becomes like the candle flame that is not disturbed by the wind. Okay? Still, steady, in a room without any wind. Okay? So when the mind is steady like this, then wisdom shines bright and continuously from the mind. Okay? It does not flicker. Any object you note, wisdom, clarity of mind will illuminate its nature clearly. Okay? Because the mind is steady, does not flicker. Does not flicker due to desire, flicker due to aversion, or any of the hindrances. Okay? So yogis, you have to note each present sense experiences that arise with mindfulness, so that the door to the sense is closed to the hindrances. Okay? So example, you know, when you note rising, falling. So rising, falling is the body door experience. Okay? So if at present rising is occurring, okay, the moment it occurs, immediately to be clearly, carefully aware of rising. Okay? Make effort to be with the rising, tune into it. Okay? Follow it, flow with it from beginning to the end, continuously rising, 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 rising. Okay? So make sure the experience of rising comes in mindfulness, this clear awareness, steady awareness. No, rising, rising, rising. Okay? So with mindfulness present, so it restrains the mind, so that the noting mind remains steady only in the bare observation, bare noting of the rising. Okay? It does not do anything else, but simply observe, note the rising as it is. Okay? So with a mindful restraint, the noting mind does not go and evaluate the rising, falling. Right? It does not evaluate, oh, this is a good rising, this is a bad rising. It does not evaluate. It does not judge. Because when you evaluate, you judge, it leads to likes and dislikes. Okay? So mindfulness holds the mind, restrain it, so it does not evaluate or judge it. So the mind does not become unstable due to likes or dislike. Okay? So with the restraint of mindfulness, the mind does not evaluate, it simply observe the object as it is. So it remains like equanimous, steady, unaffected by the object, clear about the nature of the object. Okay? So by making effort to note, observe each object that arises moment to moment continuously with this restraint of mindfulness, So the mind remain continuously steady. Moment to moment is steady. It's not shaken by the object. It's established firmly on the object. Okay? So this strength of steadiness, moment to moment, it will develop as you continuously make effort to sustain it. Okay? So the mind becomes more and more steady. So over time, the mind becomes steadily fixed on the moment to moment stream of objects. Okay? So it cannot be distracted away from this stream of object. You remain focused on it, fixed on it. Okay? So in this way, the samadhi will gradually develop through continuous mindfulness. Okay? So samadhi is developed through continuous mindfulness. Okay? Not by forcing the mind, but being mindful every moment, rising, 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 falling, 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 continuously. Okay? That's why I see the Noble Eightfold Path, the 3 factors of the path under samadhi. What are the 3 factors under samadhi? That's what's the first one? Samavayama, right effort. Then right mindfulness, samasati. Then samadhi, right concentration. So in that order, first right effort, then right mindfulness, then only right concentration. Why this order? Because first you have to make effort, right? So right effort comes first. Effort to do what? To be mindful. So after effort comes right mindfulness. Okay? So effort is directed to being mindful, not to forcing the mind. Okay? Just being mindful. Just to establish the mind firmly every moment on the object. Okay? But when you establish firmly, it doesn't mean you bang your mind into the object forcefully. Okay? You don't go pa. Okay? The mind must be gentle. Because the noting mind comes with this quality of adosa. Okay? Adosa is what? Opposite of dosa. So dosa is very violent. It hits at the object. Okay? Adosa is the opposite. It's gentle, soft. So when this quality of adosa comes together with mindfulness. Okay? So when mindfulness is present, if real mindfulness is present, this quality of adosa is present. Okay? So the mind is soft, is gentle. So when you apply the mind on the object also, the vitaka becomes soft, gentle. So vichara also soft, gentle, sustained. Okay? So but firm, because of mindfulness is firm. Okay? So you establish every moment, you make sure the mind goes gently but firmly on the object. Okay? So you note like this every moment. Okay? Yeah. So you make effort every moment. Apply. So the mind become established more and more firmly, strongly on the object. Okay? Then gradually, from this continuous mindfulness, when the strength of the sati becomes stronger, established more and more firmly, then the mind begin to fix strongly on the object. Okay? Then samadhi arise. Okay? So that's why after sama sati comes sama samadhi. Then from Samadhi, it turns back to the beginning. What is it? Samadhi, right view. Okay, so here in Vipassana, it will be Vipassana Samadhi, right view of insight, right view that discern clearly anicca, dukkha, anatta. Okay, so it's a right view of the first noble truth: is nature, impermanent, suffering, non-self. Okay, so only when samadhi is established, then this samadhi arise. Okay? So samadhi develops through continuous application of mindfulness. Okay? Now, to develop samadhi, you need a method. Okay? And for vipassana yogis, this method is provided by the Buddha. Okay? Method of Satipatthāna. Okay? So, so the Mahasi Sayadaw's method of vipassana meditation is based on the Buddha's teaching of Satipatthāna. Okay? So by applying the method of Satipatthāna, so what is the method of Satipatthāna? You recite every morning, kaya kaya nupasi viharati, and so on. So basically it means continuous, precise noting, okay, with ardent effort, with clarity, accurate clarity, okay, and firm mindfulness. Okay? So you keep applying the mind again and again, okay, in this way. Okay, so through this method, and develop sati and samadhi, mindfulness and concentration. Okay, but Satipatthāna is not just a method to develop sati and samadhi. Okay, more importantly, it is a method to develop vipassana insight that leads to liberation. Okay? In fact, this is the primary purpose of Satipatthāna, the practice of Satipatthāna, to develop this insight that leads to liberation. Okay? That's why at the beginning of the Satipatthāna Sutta, which you also recite every morning, Buddha listed out the purpose of the practice of Satipatthāna. Ekaya no ayam bhikkhave maggo satanam visuddhiya, and so on. This path is the only way for purification of beings. Purification of beings, satanam visuddhiya, means purification of the mind of beings. Purify the mind from the cause of suffering, from avijja, tanha, upadana, ignorance, craving, attachment. Okay? Remove the cause of suffering from the mind. Okay? Purification of beings, overcoming of sorrow, sorrowful crying, disappearance of physical and mental suffering, attainment of the noble path, means Ariya Magga, a real noble eightfold path, okay, that directs the mind to the experience of Nibbana. Okay, and finally for the experiencing of Nibbana. Okay, so these are the 7 purposes of practice of Satipatthāna. All of them got to do with gaining liberation from dukkha, from suffering. Okay? So the primary purpose of the method of Satipatthāna is to develop this insight, and vipassana insight that leads to liberation. Okay? This is also the meaning of you recite Dhammanu Dhamma Patipatiya. You know what's the meaning? Dhammanu Dhamma Patipatiya. Dhamma Anu Dhamma Patipati. Patipati means the practice. Okay? So then Dhamma means the Lokuttara Dhamma. Okay? Magga Phala Nibbana. Okay? So Anu Dhamma means the Dhamma that leads to Anu Dhamma. So Dhamma Anu Dhamma, the Dhamma that leads to Magga Phala Nibbana. So practice of the Dhamma that leads to realization of Magga Phala Nibbana. That's the meaning, Dhamma Anu Dhamma Patipati. So what is this? Development of vipassana. So Dhamma Anu Dhamma Patipati means vipassana meditation. By developing insight into anicca, dukkha, anatta, it leads gradually to attainment of Magga Phala Nibbana. So that's why every night after you practice vipassana throughout the day, you say Imaya Dhammanu Dhamma Patipatiya, Buddham Pujemi, Dhammam Pujemi, and so on. That means you do puja to the Buddha, Dhamma, Sangha, your parents, your teachers. Through this practice of vipassana meditation and development of insight that leads to liberation. And the Buddha says this is the highest type of puja. You want to do puja to the Buddha, this is the highest form of puja. So so method of Satipatthāna is to develop this insight that leads to liberation. But as we employ the method of Satipatthāna to develop insight, Samādhi also develop along with it. Because as we showed just now, there can be no arising of vipassana without Samādhi, without Khanika Samādhi. So so let's look at Satipatthāna. So first, the meaning of Satipatthāna. So it's a compound word. So the Pali is full of compound words. You take this word, another word, you join together, you get a new word. So Satipatthāna is a compound word. Sati and Upatthana, you join together. Satipatthāna. Sometimes they say Sati and Patthana instead of Upatthana. I prefer Upatthana. Because in the Satipatthāna Sutta, Buddha says, Sati Pachu Patita Honti. Mindfulness is established. So we use Pachu Patita, Upatati. So Upatthana. Now, so Sati Upatthana. Satipatthāna. Sati is mindfulness. So we'll explain mindfulness later. Then let's look at Upatthana first. So Upatthana means firmly or strongly established. So Upatthana. Thana means standing. So if you are standing there, that means you are established there. Okay. So then upa means strongly or firmly. Okay. So establish firmly or strongly. Okay. So therefore, Satipatthāna means this mindfulness that is firmly or strongly established. Okay. So when we employ a method of Satipatthāna to develop the mind, okay, so it leads to this development of mindfulness that is firmly established. Okay. Firmly established means the mindfulness is developed to a point whereby it is occurring with unbroken continuity. So it's occurring moment to moment to moment to moment. Okay? Occurring with strength, with momentum, with precision, with clarity. Okay? So every moment is occurring. It's firmly established on each object. Now, how is the mindfulness firmly established on the object? So in the commentary, it explain the meaning of upatati, upatthāna. So upatthāna is like a noun. Upatati is the verb. So upatati, it establishes. So the commentary explain okanditva, pakanditva, pataritva, pavattati ti atto. So the meaning when you say it establishes firmly, so commentary say the meaning is that it occurs, pavattati, it occurs by okanditva, leaping forth onto the object. It leap forth every time an object arises. This mindfulness leap forth onto the object. Rising occur, mindfulness leap into the rising. Okay, leap forth means it goes to the object without hesitation. Okay, the moment the object arises, it goes to the object without a moment hesitation. Okay, rising occur, immediately it go. Falling occur, immediately it go. If you are noting rising one after another, again and again it keeps going, leaping forth into the object without hesitation. It's not like rising occur, then you should I go, should I not go? No hesitation, immediately it go. Okay, so okanditva, then pakanditva, plunging into the object. Okay, so it leaps forth and then it plunges into the object. This means it does not remain on the surface of the object. So mindfulness is a deep awareness of the object. It doesn't experience the object only on the surface. It plunges into it, sink into it. So it experiences it deeply. Okay? And then pataritva, it envelops the object completely. Okay? So when you experience the object, you don't experience it just partly, experience it completely. Okay? The whole mind is there completely with the object, completely enveloping the entire object, experience it thoroughly. Okay? So in this way, mindfulness is firmly established on the object. Okay? So in this way, when the mindfulness keeps occurring in this way, every moment it leaps into the object, plunges into it, enveloping it again and again and again. So this time mindfulness, it has the penetrative strength. Okay, So only with such type of mindfulness, Satipatthāna mindfulness, the mind is able to explore deeply, clearly into the nature, a mental physical nature that's present in each moment of experience. So this is what it means when you say mindfulness is firmly established. Okay? So now we come to mindfulness. What is mindfulness? Okay? So as yogi, you must understand what is mindfulness. Okay? Because you are developing mindfulness. You are noting with mindfulness. Okay? It is like the tool of your trade. Just like a carpenter, he needs his tool for him to do his trade, carpentry. He needs his saw, he needs his chisel, he needs his hammer, and so on. Okay, yogi, you need mindfulness. That is your tool. Okay, so you must know your tool clearly. Okay, you must know it very well. Okay? So what is mindfulness? So in Pali, what is sati? Okay? Now this Pali word sati, its meaning is connected with remembering, remembering, recollecting, bringing to mind. So often it's connected with memory. So memory means you remember, you recollect, or bring to mind something that has happened in the past, or something you have experienced in the past. Okay? And often this is how the Buddha also explained mindfulness. Okay? So for example, when he explained about the satindriya, the mental controlling faculty of mindfulness. Okay? So Buddha explained this. And what bhikkhus is the mental controlling faculty of mindfulness? So he explained, here bhikkhus, a noble disciple is mindful, possessing supreme mindfulness and discernment, one who remembers and recollect what was done and said long ago. So this is called the mental controlling faculty of mindfulness. So here, Buddha explained mindfulness in a way whereby mindfulness is involved in remembering, recollecting, bringing to mind events that has happened in the past. Okay? But the object of mindfulness is not necessarily an object of the past. Okay? It can be object of the present also. Okay? That means bringing to mind, recollecting, bringing to mind a present object. Okay? So, and this is the case with our practice of Satipatthāna Vipassana meditation. Okay? So in this practice, mindfulness is not employed in remembering or recollecting, bringing to mind something that you have remembered from the past. Okay? So rather, in this practice, you employ mindfulness to recollect, to bring to mind clearly the sense experience in the present. Okay? So for example, in the present, experience arising occur. Okay? So immediately, mindfulness bring it into the mind. Okay? Bring that experience of rising into the mind, and it holds that experience in the mind, not letting go of it, not forgetting it. Hold it there, follow it from beginning to the end, until it disappears. Okay. The next, when falling occur, immediately it brings into the mind. Again, hold it into the mind, follow it from beginning to the end without letting it go. Okay. So Similarly, if you note rising, many rising, many falling, each time you note rising, you bring it into the mind. Next rising, again bring it into the mind. Bring clearly into the mind. Okay? So again and again, it keeps bringing the object into the mind. Rising, falling, sitting, touching, walking, meditation, lifting, pushing, placing. Again and again, you bring into the mind, bring clearly to the mind. Okay, so it's not just superficial awareness. You bring it clearly into the mind. Okay, so. This mindfulness in Satipatthāna is this clear awareness that brings or draws all these experiences, sense experiences, draws it clearly into the mind as they are each occurring in the present. Okay, it draws it into the mind, not letting it out of sight. Okay, not letting the attention escape or drift away from the object to something else. Okay. Okay. Now, the meaning of sati, we say, is connected with remembering. Now, to remember means not to forget. Right? So therefore, mindfulness can also be described as this non-forgetful awareness. Okay, awareness that does not forget the object. So mindfulness, it never forgets its object. So when mindfulness is present and it is strong in the mind, you never forget the object. Because the nature of mindfulness, non-forgetfulness, is strong. So you never forget this object. Okay, you're not rising. You can follow rising from beginning to the end without forgetting it. It doesn't drift away, abandon it halfway. Okay? It keeps remembering, rising from beginning to the end. Okay, yeah. So that's when mindfulness is strong. So the nature of non-forgetfulness is strong. But when mindfulness is still weak, not developed yet, this nature of non-forgetfulness is also weak. So when it's weak, you find that you keep forgetting the object, keep drifting away from the object. You're not rising 2 times, the mind already forget, run away somewhere. So that's because the nature of non-forgetfulness is still weak. Okay, that happened in the beginning of the practice. That's why in the beginning, even though you make effort, I want to note, but I keep running away. Why? Because mindfulness is not well developed yet. So its nature, the strength of non-forgetfulness is still weak. Okay, so just like when a person his leg is weak, he cannot walk properly, what do? You give him a tongkat, so he can walk properly. So similarly, when mindfulness is still weak, you give mindfulness a tongkat. What is that? Labeling. So when you note an object, you label rising. This helps to remind, to note, remind the noting mind to note. Okay? Because now it's still forgetful, so you must keep reminding. So you put the label, rising. Keep going. Note. You use the labeling. Okay. So this will help the mindfulness. To remember. Okay? Once mindfulness is well developed, then this nature of non-forgetfulness is strong. Then it will not forget. Then you don't need the label anymore. The mind can keep noting by itself without forgetting. Can follow each object from beginning to the end with complete wholehearted attention, that never forget or forsake the object. Okay? So you're not rising, it follows the rising continuously from beginning to the end. You're not falling, it follows continuously from beginning to the end. You're not lifting, it follows the lifting process from beginning to the end. Same with pushing, placing. Okay? So you keep remembering, you never forget. So the whole mind is completely with each object from beginning to the end. It's like the whole mind is fixed on the object. Okay? Now, so when mindfulness is strong, so not only does it not forget or abandon an object that is noting in the present. Okay? So when it's well developed, when this nature of non-forgetfulness is strong, as mindfulness will also occurs continuously, without a break. Okay? Because the nature of non-forgetfulness, it do not allow the noting mind to miss a single object. Okay? So noting goes on continuously without a break, moment to moment, noting one object after another, after another, after another. Rising followed by falling, falling followed by rising, again and again continuously. Okay? You never miss a single noting. Okay? And every time it notes, the mindfulness will draw the object into the mind clearly, and it notes it. Okay? Okay, we stop here today.